We need to be hit on the face by a piece of 2x4 to learn things. We don't learn things easily. We learn them because something happens that changes us. And I think that's probably been how my life has been, that I've learned as I've grown. But I think probably because I did embark on a self-discovery journey quite a few years ago, through psychotherapy, I was able to get a fairly good understanding of who I am, including all my neuroses. I don't feel like I'm very zen inside me. I feel like I'm not a zen person, but I'm glad that I look like that sometimes. I was a very serious child. I wasn't a sort of wacky, funny, crazy child. I was writing poetry about death when I was about 5. But children are a bundle of a whole lot of stories, all from the very time they're born, from the time that they're held, and also in utero. Everything that happens pre that matters. Jewellery and people for me are inextricably linked, and the relationships that I create with people and jewellery are inextricably linked. You want to be with people who enlarge your spirit, help you to keep growing, make you a better person. We're not all designed to be lawyers and doctors. There's a trillion other things we can be. And I think that a society that allows people to use their hands constructively in beautiful ways is a society that's actually quite sophisticated. I didn't find motherhood a really easy gig. I didn't find it a really easy role. I think I associate a lot with my German grandmother, and my German grandmother during World War II made hats to keep my father and his sister alive. And the fact that she survived and brought up 2 children, I loved that drive. I really respected that drive in a woman, and I feel that women are vastly underrated in terms of capacity, strength, wisdom. The reason that it's a man's world is that men couldn't afford it for it to be a women's world, because women do have so much capacity, it's scary. I always had this view that, and it sounds probably a little bit dodgy, but I had this view that women with real integrity worked outside the home as well. So I always liked the idea of working, and I was great with my babies when they got to about 18 months. But I struggled with that time when babies are really little, and once they sort of were relating and we could have a lot of fun together, I found that much more fun. I found it interesting to have 3 boys because when I was having my first child, everybody thought I was having a girl, and they even bought me pink clothes for a baby. Then when I had Hugh, when he came out, they said to me, "It's a girl." And then they said, "Oh, sorry, it's a boy." And that was probably one of those moments in your life when you kind of realise what really matters. And ironically, or perhaps largely because of that, I was really happy to have William, because I didn't mind what William was. I was really happy to have a baby. But for my first 2, I had this real pressure about having a girl. I think part of the reason I wanted to have a girl was because I didn't have a brilliant relationship with my mother. It was quite a difficult relationship. She didn't understand me and I didn't understand her. I had 3 brothers and then I had 3 sons. So it was kind of weird to have repeat almost history in terms of the gender. And so in my marriage, my early marriage, I was brought up with boys all around me, my husband and my 3 sons. So there was not much prettiness in the house. My father had a huge decorator in him. So when we were growing up, we lived in Mentone, which was just a little seaside town. And Dad made a mini Europe in this little beachside town, Mentone. So, other people were eating, chops for breakfast, for lunch, and I was having, sauerkraut and these things that I couldn't pronounce, and I was very embarrassed by that. I was very embarrassed that I wasn't like the normal girl, and I didn't find my school years joyous. People tell me all the time that the school years were the happiest years of their life. They weren't my happiest years of my life. My happiest years of my life have been the last 25 years, I'd say. The kind of the cult of the young doesn't allow for how much you grow as you mature and how you become more whole and more understanding of who you are and who you're not. I think the cult of the young thinks that the things that you have when you're 18, which are transient, are the things that actually matter. Whereas I think that in fact, as you get older, you can kind of understand what you value more. If you're prepared to keep growing, and preparing to keep growing, I think is the essential tool, essential aim every adult should have till they die, till the minute they stop. That should be their aim, to just grow and grow and grow and grow and learn by the fabulous things that happen, but also I think probably more learn by the hard things that happen. My interest in psychotherapy began when about 12 years ago I stopped being able to see out of my left eye, and I was walking with a friend and I felt like there was a stone behind my eye, and I went to my general practitioner who sent me to an ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist said, something's wrong, but I'm not so sure what it is. And by the Sunday of the 2 days later, my whole left side of my face had dropped and I had third nerve palsy, so I couldn't actually see. So all my sight was converging, and the ophthalmologist opened his surgery at 9 o'clock at night and said to Johnny, get her to the Epworth, that'll be quicker than an ambulance. I think she's having a stroke or she has an aneurysm. So then all my life just flashed in front of me, and all the things that I thought I should have done that I hadn't done, I thought about and thought, what a waste, Kirsten, you've done this, but you haven't done that. And then I wanted to ring my boys because they were all overseas until their mum was dying and that things weren't going to be going as well as we hoped. And I got into hospital and they found after about 10 days that I had an aneurysm behind my left eye. At that point I realised that I hadn't done a lot of things I wanted to do when I first could have done them because I married so early. So I thought I really want to do psychology and go back and do it. And so the reason I did it was really, again, because I was hit by a piece of 2 before and realised, and I was off work for a year and did a lot of thinking in that time and realised that things that really mattered to me were people. And that's been interesting with working with jewellery, because jewellery and people for me are inextricably linked, and the relationships that I create with people and jewellery are inextricably linked. So I don't sort of see them as separate. Sometimes I feel like, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I in the right profession? But I feel like my integrity and my truthfulness with my clients, whether they be psychotherapeutic clients or jewellery purchasers, is the same. It's congruent. So I feel like I've got congruence. And I think that sometimes in life that's one of the hard things to have, is to be congruent between how you'd like people to see you and what's actually going on inside you. My father believed there was 3 kinds of opportunities for his 4 children: Kozminsky, Kozminsky or Kozminsky. And all of us were given those 3 options. I'd like to think those reasons were altruistic. I think that as a European man coming from Germany after the Second World War, he wanted to make a business and he wanted to leave his children a heritage. But I also think it was partially narcissism, that he couldn't see past what he created to allow his children to create something, which is why I've been absolutely adamant that none of my children join the business. What happens in the future, I don't know, but at the moment none of them have careers that even vaguely would even overlap in that business. I worked in a business from the time I could poke my head over the counter. I must have been an absolute precocious monster when I look back on it, but I think that training was good because I learned a lot about well, what we called in those days the trade. We don't call it the trade anymore because it's a business now, and that's a sort of a part of the way business has professionalised, if you like. Businesses that, and that's why I have this real passion about trades. I think trades are really important, and I feel really sad that Victoria doesn't have more proper technical colleges, because we're not all designed to be lawyers and doctors. There's a trillion other things we can be. And I think that a society that allows people to use their hands constructively in beautiful ways is a society that's actually quite sophisticated. And I don't see Australia as being necessarily terribly sophisticated yet. I had my first child at 23. So I was married 5 years before, which is probably the only really clever thing I did in my first marriage was to wait till I was 23. And then I had 23, then Nicholas was a very difficult baby, so I had 26 and then 28 for William. So between all those babies, I would go into work. Sometimes it just might be half a day a week, but I called it my sanity time and my time to talk to adults and grown-ups, and without wanting to be cliched, I think it made me a better mum because I could actually come home and I'd had a bit of grown-up conversation. And all through that time and all through my life, I think largely because of my father, I've always been creating homes. So that's been a tandem thing. My first husband didn't understand that at all. Fortunately, my husband now understands that's part of my creative yearning. I've always thought I'd like to start doing art again. I haven't done it yet because I feel like there's a part of me that doesn't get the real, I love collage. I love to rip up paper and put it onto paper and make pictures and things like that. And whenever I go to the great galleries of the world, the collage section is the one I love the most. Where the great artists, Dufy and Picasso and people like that, not just doing standard artwork, they're actually collaging. I don't know what that says about me, but I love collage. I ask myself that question often, why I collect, and because we're in a position where we're thinking of moving home, it raises it to real awareness because you realise just how much you've collected and what it says about you. I would say that one of the things that I can pretty well tell you about everything that's in this room is I can tell you where I bought it, how I felt, and what it expressed for me. And when I was moving my Kakeshi before, I knew every Kakeshi where I bought it, whether it was in a flea market in Japan, from one of the collectors that I speak to online, from a couple of the dealers in Melbourne, and what I felt when I bought it. So really the only ones I give away are ones that aren't imbued with some sort of spirit. Those two incense burners I bought because Johnny went away on a golf weekend and I was furious with him. So I just thought they were beautiful and I thought I deserved them because he was away. There is a great thrill in the chase. And as I get older, there's less thrill in the chase. That sort of sense of, I saw that in a shop and I really want to have it and I want to go back and buy it. I've kind of realised that for me that's becoming quite hollow. But for years it was the thrill of the chase. And and then I'd put it in the back of the car and think, why did I really need that? So I think that I have this yin and yang in me, this acquisitive side of me that says, take it, take it, take it. And the other side of me says, do you need it? And I guess probably because one of my children works in the whole area of global poverty, then it raises a whole lot of issues about what do we need? And under Maslow's hierarchy, you only need shelter, food. There's about 3 things you need and the rest is peripheral. So I think that I struggle with this incredibly acquisitive desiring of having and owning and possessing, and then realising that at the end of the day I'm going to go into a box and the box is going to be burnt and there's going to be nothing, and there'll only be the people's memories of me that might be good or bad. There won't be anything else to remember me by. And I think that probably as I get older is more real to me. Probably when I was younger it was less, I just sort of thought you collected things. I thought about the Kakeshis while I was sorting them and putting them out today, and I think that at some level the Kokeshis work for me as a response to what I would describe as not a really happy childhood. I think there's a lot of girls in there that are making up for things that I didn't feel I had as a child. I think I've had more of a childhood collecting those than I had when I was a child.